said, I don't want to think too much. No, if it's something quite easy, then yeah, maybe. Okay, we are live on YouTube, so hello everybody. Today I'm sick, so instead of just doing some coding myself, I'm going to watch some of my watch later videos. So this is stuff that I wanted to check out. I can as well do it during a stream and do some commentary. So now I'm a standard lazy streamer. You can choose what here you find interesting. Fenwick trees for RMQ. Fenwick trees are overrated. I never used Fenwick trees in my life, and I'm fine. Advanced algorithms, yeah, but it's pretty long. Can do that. It doesn't mean that I will just watch, you know, from start to end. It will most likely be in speed like 1.5 or ×2. I just want to see what that is. Okay, you should hear the sound now. What is max operation? It's something to do with Grundy numbers. A black box method indeed seems interesting.
For competitive programming.
You hear this? Yeah, you hear this. Right, and one more thing I want to do is I'm going to create a page where I list what we go for right now, so that at the end I could just copy paste it. For now I'll just make a new page. This is lazy stream videos / links. First we have this. And I will keep updating this page. And you will have a link to that. I will also later post it on YouTube. Here you go, the link. Done. Tutorial on top trees. I don't know what is top trees. Yeah, no coding today. I will. This is a lazy stream where I just, you know, kind of research stuff out.
Hey guys, this is going to be a video on essentially an effective method to learn many different concepts quickly. This method is the black boxing, and as you can see here, I've hand-drawn to represent this if you like this. So this allows you to apply many different techniques like algorithms, data structures, or just pieces of code in general, and it works for competitive programming or even just general programming because there's a lot of similarity between the two in the way the method is used. So in particular, I've used this a lot during some contests of mine to get where I am now, with a significant example being how I used it to solve a quite hard problem with a technique I didn't even know much about, only a brief overview of what it did, and that ended up getting me 10th and saving my 7-star rating on CodeChef. So yeah, this method works. And in fact, this is something we generally use all the time in general programming without even thinking much about it. So
just
what even is a black box?
For now.
Well, we can pull up Wikipedia's definition as support, but essentially it just means that it's some piece of code that does something.
Yeah,
and we understand what it does, but not really how it does it.
I know what black box is.
And the reason we already use for many portions of our code, like input and output, for example, we let the pre-written code do the hidden magic and only worry about what we do with the results. And the cool thing about programs is that you can literally just copy and paste
from 0 to hero
regardless
in
of how much you understand
100 hours just by watching videos.
So let's take a very common example of sorting an array. For many languages, we use an internal algorithm to sort an array, some part of the programming language's library. And just as a brief refresher, if it's unfamiliar to you, sorting is just reordering. So just necessary to some sorting method or function. Fenwick trees or binary index trees, which is a topic from competitive programming. So if you already know these, great, then it's a good example. And if you don't, then that's fine. And the whole point of this is that it will only take me like a few seconds, up to a minute to explain it. So the quick black box description of what it is it basically operates on an array.
Black box is something that we don't care how it works, but it can do something.
Both of these operations take O of log n complexity, and that's it.
For example, you don't need to understand segment trees in order to use them if you just copy paste the code.
That is actually necessary in telling. And if you're new to this channel, well, sort of structured like an API, where these add and query functions are just simply trusty paint for a demonstration. And if you're new to this channel, well, I basically...
Okay. Maybe this is some
So now, let's pull out the trusty paint for a demonstration. And
analogy. Yeah, I'm watching Colin. and later we have some more choices here. Like old streams, yeah, it's a bit like boring programming stream, but I think during boring programming streams I still did a bit more. For example, I did some typing. Algo talks, I don't know, the views weren't exactly what I expected.
And if you're new to this channel, well, I basically use it for everything, so that will be how it goes. In this diagram, vertical distance represents time, and basically the standard strategy for learning is to pick some list of topics and then learn them one by one. However, this is rather slow, and during the period of learning, for the topics that you haven't even looked at yet, you won't know anything or much about any of them. So say some contest comes, and you'd want to do it because of the contest, and contests are always good for you to learn from, which I made a video on. Essentially, you're not going to be able to do anything.
It was really good. Timothy, what's your Codeforces rating? I wonder, maybe I should do some kind of survey. What rating people had to enjoy the algo talks?
Maybe you know enough about topic A, which you've learned some about to be able to do it, but for concepts B and C, you're just totally screwed. There's nothing you can do. You don't really know about them. So if those show up, there's nothing you'll be able to do.
Expert is what color?
So it's sort of bad in the intermediate.
1800, okay.
But now let's introduce black box.
Yeah, that's expected.
Which is much closer to the unknown side of things because it doesn't take that much time to learn it. It's an easy gap to cross versus learning an entire thing. Now say I black box all three of the concepts before.
Half of tourist is 1800. That sounds about right because tourist is 3600.
Starting to fully learn them. Not necessarily as a substitute for learning them, just as a start. And I think this should be the way that black boxing is used. It's still a good idea to eventually learn things because it's sort of going to be necessary if you ever want to make modifications to something, which does show up somewhat frequently. But it's a good first step, and it will let you be informed about all of the algorithms and data structures and everything that you're interested in using. So this black boxing may also involve solving a few problems or just playing with it a bit, getting a bit of practice, just get comfortable. And the plan is to eventually learn them, of course, but just starting with these techniques as black boxes is a good enough introduction to them. Now in this scenario, say the contest happens, and I've already black boxed these three, and I'm in the process of learning concept A, but I'm already at the point where I'm able to use all three concepts effectively. So I know enough about all three of the topics to solve the problems that use them, so I do. And I do much better on this contest, potentially, if it has these topics, than if I hadn't used the black boxing, and I got some practice out of it because now I know these problems are going to use these concepts. So black boxing is basically like an intermediate step, except it has no drawbacks. You're going to learn this stuff anyway, so it can really only benefit you, and the benefits are still really good.
So I don't agree about no drawback part. I usually discourage people from copy-pasting, for example, segment trees, because they keep doing it, they take it for granted, and then they do not understand it. People hate the geometry and they always copy-paste the convex hull of points. I always type like convex hull because it's quite simple if you think about it, if you really understand it. So I think that the disadvantage of going through this black boxed period of understanding a concept is that you might stay too long here because you're happy about your performance in contest. But you can only use an algorithm if it's just easy, straightforward case of using this algorithm. If you need to modify this algorithm, say implement a Dijkstra on a dense graph. With dense graph, you shouldn't use priority queue. Instead, you should just always go through all vertices to find the minimum. And yeah, I understand that after understanding the black box, you can then learn it. But too many people spend too much time in this middle part. If you want to maximize your contest performance short term, then yeah, sure. But should that really be the goal? The goal should be to learn a lot and in the long run to be the best, right? Probability puzzles? I don't know. I don't feel like it. Let's stick to just watching stuff. Algo talks were high level. That's right. I don't see much purpose to... I don't see a reason to do algo talks for, easy stuff, because then what's the point of two experienced people to talk about it? Then it's more like just teaching, and then I prefer to just teach myself. I mean, to teach alone, without a second guy. Did you ever have classes with two teachers at the same time? That's strange. Talking about some hard topic, that makes sense. Yeah, you need to understand before using, but I would say that in the same day I would mostly go through black boxed and learned, types. Say I learned Dijkstra back then, like 5-10 years ago. I don't think I would first understand it, just what it does, and then keep copy pasting. No, I would learn from the very beginning. There are some, among hard algorithms, there are some that I don't know how to implement very well, like flows. But I would say that it hurts me. For such a long time, I kept copy pasting flows that I really don't feel like learning it. So I'm stuck at this black boxed part, so I'm not able to solve very hard problems. On the other hand, FFT. FFT is something that I research more, so my FFT is very fast. TSP problem was good, thank you. I'm very proud of that problem.
Drawbacks. You're going to learn this stuff anyway, so it can really only benefit you, and the benefits are still really good. So let's talk advantages. Why is this useful? It definitely works very quickly, in that the information required to use something is much less than the information required to fully understand something. As you could have seen from my previous examples, it took like maybe around a minute or two just to explain the black box rendition of some concept. Especially for rather hard topics, ones that can take like hours or even multiple days to learn and grasp, this saves a lot of the work, at least initially. It allows you to have most of the necessary information very quickly, and then when you decide to learn it later, you'll be able to solidify that knowledge later on as you formally learn things. So if you encounter a problem related to something you're not so well versed in, perhaps you have it black boxed in your head, but you don't exactly understand it yet. At the very least, you do know what to look for. You know that this was the concept involved, you're just not that good at that concept yet. So it lets you sort of figure out where you should go from a certain point, places where you can practice and apply it. You've already found some practice problems for yourself by just having the black box and recognizing the certain doing. You know what the purpose of it is. It will ultimately keep your learning focused because you already know what everything is doing. You know what the purpose of it is. All you're doing once you transition from having something black boxed to learning it normally, you're just figuring out how it works. You already know what it does. You already know everything that's required to use it. You're just understanding the internal mechanisms of it. And also on that note, when you understand the underlying purpose of something and you're really like acquainted with it, it makes it a lot less scary to learn it for real because you know the end result already. It's just figuring out how it gets there.
I would argue that instead this line says postpones learning. That you have a choice between learning Dijkstra today or very quickly just knowing what it does and then learning it in a few months. I would say learn it today. One of your videos has around 700 views, but also about like concepts in general. What channel do you have, Timothy?
There. Now this
maybe I know you from Codeforces, but I don't recall a name Timothy Green other than from Twitch, from the streams we have.
Be one of my videos if I didn't take every opportunity to flex. So here's some examples from my own experience where this black boxing has actually worked for me. As I mentioned in the beginning, there was one where I used a complicated concept that I didn't really know much about to get 10th place in a contest and again retain my 7-star rating. And this was an example of using a suffix array, which is a complicated, yeah,
it's useful, of course, to know what algorithms do, and it will help. But I think long run it doesn't matter.
Actually learn something in contest using a very cool library called the @coded library. And this library is nice because it describes things in a black box way where it tells you learn this thing in contest, and then it made a stream on it without even understanding how it works just because black boxing was so effective. And I also saved my rating in another hard code chef contest by copy pasting comic culture.
So he repeats the point that maintaining rating in the short term is important. I hardly disagree.
That got me,
not hardly. I strongly disagree.
I believe 13th. So showing this code, if you'll notice, the only things that really matter are the two functions, insert line, which will insert a line. Even if you don't understand what that means, it's just simply there are two functions that control everything, and everything else is internal. The insert line and eval functions are the API, and everything else is magic.
That's some strange implementation. If you want to learn about dynamic hull, there is a actually my blog with a question on Codeforces versus dynamic convex hull. Maybe this one? No, let's say Eric. Yeah, here you have some long discussion. And I would say that if really you want to use something and understand it, you need to really dig deeper. So here I wasn't sure how to implement it best. I could, of course, just copy paste it from the internet, but I asked what's the best implementation method, and various ways were suggested, and I just chose the best one, but also understood it, not just copy-pasted. I will also paste the look. You can access this by using link command in Twitch chat or in YouTube, going to description.
For all I know. So a bit of advice on the practicality of using the black box method. I mean, how would you even find working code without having to understand and produce it yourself, right? Well, as it turns out, there are plenty of well-tested and useful libraries that contain code for a lot of different things. I'll include all these in the description. But a brief overview of what some of them do. The @coder library, or ACL, is a working and a very broad library with sort of black box style documentation. They give the complexity and the utility, the functions, what the code does, but not necessarily how the code works, because it's not necessary. So it basically aligns exactly with how blackboxing works. There's a site called CP Algorithms, which gives, and by the way, CP is for competitive programming, not the other meaning of the acronym, but it gives both code and explanation stuff for it. And but the important thing is that it gives full code without any sort of like necessary interpretation most of the time. Some pages aren't perfect, but most of the time it will give full code.
Is it really the case that CP algorithms give you a nice function for various algorithms?
There are also some other basic libraries like Cactal.
I never treated CP algorithms as a good source of codes to copy paste.
And also a library by Ben Q, one of the top competitive programmers, currently second on Codeforces. He's pretty good. And if you want, I also have my own library with some stuff, but it's not, how do I put this? It's not too friendly for anyone who isn't me. So possibly I'll clean it up in the future, but I would recommend using some of the other ones instead of mine. And I'm sure there are also probably plenty of others that you could find on the internet. Alright, so that's blackboxing. And whether you choose to use it or not is totally up to you, but I would say it can't hurt, for sure. It takes a really short time, like mere minutes for a single topic, and it involves information that you would eventually need to have anyway when you're learning something, because it's the utility, it's what the thing actually does. And it also gives you a brief but sufficient for using it, introduction to topics, allowing you to use them much quicker than you'd be able to if you decided to learn them all fully in sequence. Now, if you're also looking for some place to try and learn these things, there are some of the websites I mentioned above, but that out and potentially subscribe.
Yeah. So I don't agree with this question, with the thing that this describes how to learn hard concepts quickly. No, you just learn how to black box them, not really learn them. You don't know them. So it's like, say, you want to learn running very fast, but instead, I don't know, you use a train or something. Yeah, you would reach your destination, but that wasn't the point. I don't know how stupid this analogy is. How did I increase my speed of touch typing? I practiced touch typing. The Cattle library, this one, I think has crazy fast algorithms for various stuff. It's one of those rare cases where even if my team, University of Warsaw, prepared something, like we have good code for max flows, for FFT, stuff like that, still often Cattle or KACTL, they have something better. This is a well-known good library of codes, of very fast and efficient codes. You can just get those links by going to the video. Concepts. Why is this called a concept? DSU on trees? Why does it need a cost of 2 indices? Yeah, I'm not sure. Templates. On the other hand, I never liked just blackboxing stuff, and this is why I kind of avoided various methods. I don't know if it's a good thing, maybe not. For example, I for a long time now understand centroids, so I use them all the time, but for a long time I didn't understand HLD very well, heavy light decomposition, And I don't know if it's just that HLD is not really useful, but I don't use it. I know how to implement HLD if I think about it for a minute, but it's just so uncommon. Yeah, the part that you can copy paste for example, for centroids or HLD, I would say it's not really very important. Like, it's not the hard part of such a problem. Once you know something very well, then I think it's good to implement it and keep copy pasting to increase your speed during the contest. But this is completely different from what Colin suggests. Interactive problems on Windows, I don't know either. I don't use Windows for programming. Once encountered HLD. Are you sure that HLD was needed? No, you don't need centroid decomposition for 1900. Why I stopped taking part in Codeforces contest? I didn't stop. But Division 1 rounds aren't that, common. Maybe you just are in Division 2 and this is why you think that the contests are that common. Look at this, please. Algorithm studies. Okay, so what about this one? There are hundreds of libraries. If it's something made by a very strong competitor, then I'm interested, sure. But if it's one of those hundreds just posted on Codeforces, I don't really want to go through it. Most algorithms on graphs? You mean on tree? Is there most algorithm on a tree? Sorry, on a general graph? I thought that it's only for a tree. Division 3 and educational are rarer than Division 1. Really? I'm fact-checking this. Division 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, around 20. Oh, I have a number here, 23. Educational. 15, including stuff on the right. But there is one Division 1 educational. Okay, I agree that Division 1 is more common than educational, but if you add educational plus standard to Division 2 plus Division 3, that's a lot more. Already Division 3 plus educational beats Division 1 in frequency. How to select a problem to solve from LeetCode? Sort by frequency or something, or by the number of likes. Yeah, I didn't realize that the number is here. I'm stupid today. I'm not saying that I'm not stupid in any other day, but today I'm especially stupid. Okay, what video next? This is our choice. I don't know how to show you everything at one time. What next? Code chef long? No, too much time. From the perspective of an experienced participant, I will say that the hard problems in code chef long tend to be tedious. They often require some very heavy math. And I understand that there are some tedious problems that when one comes up with something like that, you won't really use it for Codeforces because the contest is just too short. So if anybody in competitive programming space comes up with a very hard but tedious problem, something that will take a lot of time or requires heavy knowledge, the only place you can use it is CodeRefLong. This is why CodeRefLong, very hard problems, tend to be, I would say, tedious. That being said, when I when I practiced, I was more of a beginner, like 7 years ago, I did CodeRefLongs a lot. I very much liked them. And I even fought for some top places, even though I wasn't that strong. It was a nice motivation because you have several days to just think a lot. Also, when you're commuting, where you're in a bus or just falling asleep. And I think it was very beneficial for me. So you do long contests, but I will skip them just because the hardest problems are worse than in AdCoder, for example. What do I think when I'm not able to do a problem during a contest? I'm thinking how to solve it. You can watch my screencasts. I say stuff out loud. Which YouTubers? I don't know, second thread among programmers. Look at this problem. No, thank you. Why don't I like game theory? Why should I like it? Alright, what video next? Game? Somebody said. Oh, you mean that I'm supposed to make a video on game theory? No, the stream isn't the right place to suggest stuff for my YouTube channel. You can do that in YouTube comments. Max? We can do Max. Oh yeah, so this one, I don't have this in watch later. In order to learn Max, I wanted to see how Peltorator uses the library by, I think, 3blue1brown. So I'm watching this video, and actually same for Blackbox method, mainly to see if I want to apply this style as well. No, I don't know the author of this video personally.
Obtain numbers 0, 1, 2, etc. K, and
this is Max.
Anyway, everything you need to know about the Max. At the beginning, we're gonna talk about basics, but in the middle and at the end, there will be some advanced tricks, so I would recommend to anyone to watch this
making
video.
videos on the same topic?
Max is an abbreviation for minimum excluded, so the max
How
of a
do you
set
imagine
is a
it?
minimum non-negative integer
There
that
is
isn't present
limited
in this
number
set.
of
For
topics.
example, the max of a set 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is equal to 0. Although the max is initially defined for a set, it can be similarly defined for a multiset. That's if the elements of a set can be repeated. Let's notice that if there are n elements in a set, then its max is etc. k-1. So the size of this definitely helps us. For example, it means that all elements of our set that are greater than n can be just ignored because they don't affect the max to n. Then we'll go through the original array. Let's create greater than.
I like this effect where you focus on some array. It's nicely written. It's very well formatted, and then you say that we ignore like numbers that are too big. I would here, this is what I would do during my videos. I would say, wait, I'm running some program. I would say this: we can safely ignore all numbers bigger than the length, because for sure we will have something up to 9 not present. And I think this version is fine. You don't need to disappear numbers. Actually, I would even argue that crossing them out is better because you can still see what's behind.
Because they don't affect the max. Now let's perform the counting sort. Let's create an additional array of size n+1 with positions from 0 to n. Then we'll go through the original array, and for all its elements that are not greater than n, we will mark in the additional array that the corresponding number is in the set. After that, we just need to iterate through the positions of the additional array in ascending order and find the first number that we didn't mark. It will be our max. The time complexity of this solution is, of course, of n. Now let's learn how to keep track of the max of a changing set. Let us this something like finding smallest non-existing number
in linear time is not really useful in competitive programming, because competitive programming rarely distinguishes between n log n and O of n. I would always solve this problem by just putting all the stuff in set and just iterating from 0 up to find the first one that doesn't exist. Sure, maybe I would do this thing if I really wanted the speed, but it's so rarely the case.
Now let's learn how to keep.
Maybe when you have n log square and you want to get it down to n log n. But it's extremely rare that n log n will not pass, and you need to speed this up to O of n.
Track of the max of a changing set. Let us have a multiset that is initially empty, and there are 3 types of queries. Add an element to our multiset, delete an element from our multiset, and find the max of our multiset. We're going to handle all these queries in O of log n time, where n is the total number of queries. Let's make an STD map.
Okay.
We're going to handle
I like this, and I don't know how I would create this.
all these queries in O of log n time, where n
do everything in O of log of n. I would, I guess, cheat a little bit, and I would need to instead say, so this is not present. I would say all of that we want in O of log of n. I'm typing now very ugly because I'm using my mouse instead of drawing tablet. I would do something like that. I like this style more. Again, I'm watching this video mainly to see if I want to mimic this format.
n is the total number of queries. Let's make an STD map where for each element we will store its number of occurrences in the multiset. Since the max at any moment is less than n, we can use an array instead of a map. But it doesn't really matter because our time complexity is logarithmic anyway. In addition, let's store the complement of our multiset. It means the set of all numbers from 0 to n that are not present in our multiset. We're going to store this complement in std set. Initially, the complement set consists of all the numbers from 0 to n because our multiset is empty. Then, if an element is added to the multiset, we need to add 1 to its value in the map and remove it from the complement set if it's then we need to subtract 1 from its value in the map. And also, it must be add complement set. This method is from add only 0 to the complement set and also maintain the number k, which means the be executed and then increase k by 1 since of n log n. If the elements of our set are only being added and not being removed, then task becomes even easier. It can be now solved in constant time per query. Let's make an array or an ordered map in which for every element we will store whether it's in the set or not. And also additionally, we will support the variable k.
Math forces is now going to be a new trend for Division 2. I think that people are just scared of math. But yeah, code forces leans too much towards math puzzles instead of algorithms, in my opinion. Can I tutor LGM? If you're LGM, I don't know if that's L or uppercase I. If you're Nutella in code forces, then obviously I cannot teach you because you're not weaker than I am.
K, which will be equal to the max. Then initially k is 0, and if at some point we added number k to the set, then we need to increase the number k by 1 as long as it's in our set. So k will always increase, and for n queries, it will increase at most n times. The time complexity is linear. If at some point we added number k to
this kind of animation, it takes me a lot of time to draw it and to show
set,
it.
Then we need to increase the number k by 1 as long as it's in.
Let's actually watch this part in normal speed, or maybe 1.25.
Or not. And also additionally, we will support the variable k, which will be equal to the max. Then initially k is 0, and if at some point we added number k to the set, then we need to increase the number k by 1 as long as it's in our set. So k will always increase, and for n queries, it will increase at most n times. The time complexity is linear. If queries are more complex than just adding an element to our set and deleting an element from our set, you may want to maintain a segment tree instead of std set. For example, if an entire set.
Of course, this animation was very unnecessary.
Want to maintain a segment tree instead of std set.
Of course, cool, but it doesn't help anybody learning the concept better.
For example, if an entire segment of elements can be added to the set at once. Let's assume that in the segment tree AI is equal to 1 if the
why was this highlighted?
Added to the set at once. Let's std set. For example, if an entire segment of elements
is this a mistake? Why this is now in yellow, but only the first element is
can be added to the set at once.
Yeah, I think that's a mistake.
Assume that in the segment tree AI is equal to 1 if the element is in the set, and AI is
okay. I'm going to minimize with 1. Just 1 denotes that
equal to 0 exists. If the store size. If you don't know how to store numbers in a tree, try tree in a bunch. Anyway, it's also sometimes helpful to store numbers in a binary trie of the bit. It's probably not worth it to actually perform the left sum is the right sum and the right one no one knows. there will be a... The next fact, in my opinion, is the most useful, but pretty much no one knows about it. If you didn't know, Max has nothing to do with Mexico City International Airport, and this deep text Max guacamole sauce perfect with practice it. Okay, let's go on. There is also such a topic as games on acyclic graphs. If you don't know it, then it's worth studying. Everyone will tell you any number is max of at least this idea, and also
max of an array. Yeah, alright, so everything starting from here, already here for segment 3, is just hard use cases of max. Regarding the video as a whole, what might happen is that you watch this and you don't really understand what happened. I guess I learned that people really want examples. Like when I watch this, I understand what he means by this directed graph of states. But without an example, you will not be able to apply the technique.
Because length n
plus 1. That being said, this is a very nice summary. And for somebody, say, yellow-red, it's good to go through this video and make sure that you understand everything.
Adding element number AI occurs at the position I and R. However, if we then, as far as I know, the segment, and the time complexity is addition to the left and to the power of 2/3. You can read more about this to share your tricks. A link to the content of my Russian channel. There are English subtitles, so you may tree.
So that's a lot of trees. Right, so we are here. Something happening in the chat, in the comments. A lot of positivity. That's of course very nice. By the way, this is obviously a very good video. Web development? No. It's not that I like this video enough to switch to this style. Yeah, it's by Free Blue and Brown. Manim, I didn't know the name. Mathematical animation engine. Sometimes I wish that in OneNote I could use some kind of simple LaTeX or something to create big arrays. Like I want to have an array of size 10 and then show how some modification changes the array. I need to do it by hand, and that's annoying. But I would say that also because of that I often think a lot about examples to, if possible, make a small example that shows everything very well. This deserves some explanation. What's that? Matrix exponential. Oh, that's pretty long. Well, I'm sure if you look at some basic part, then it makes some sense. But there isn't. There are no comments, and I think that's bad. Well, I'm not going to analyze this tool. Who made this? Free Blue and Brown himself, but I guess maybe he hired some people to do it. Yeah, this animation is very important for videos that are made by Free Blue and Brown. You know, stuff like this, the thing you see right now here, or the three-dimensional drawings. Like, you will not make anything close to that with just pen and paper. I mean, you can make one frame, but not the whole animation, unless you spend months. For this, for example, to explain derivatives, and here I guess, I don't know, integral, and to show that something is below. Yeah, this is awesome. That's very nice. But I hope that for programming it isn't that important to keep this nice format. Whenever we have geometry, then maybe it makes more sense to use this. But for geometry in competitive programming is quite basic. Like you need to just draw a line passing through 2 points, or you need to find a convex hull. When to cover FFT? I don't know. It's not that I plan it for the next month. Calculus? Yes. Discrete maths is often used. Calculus as well. All right. In watch later, where's my watch later?
Is already XORed with the number X.
We watched this. Then let's do a quick glance at the other two videos. This one I already saw very small parts, and this is in Russian with subtitles. Just I want to see the animations.
Первым делом элемент будет иксной суммы запросов. Нам дают какой-то отрезок этого массива и справа должны быть XOR, то есть к концам мы уже вертикально можем программировать в математике, поэтому иксы идут вертикально.
Here's something that I recently thought about. The more people are in this space of making educational content on programming or algorithms, the fewer videos every person should make. Like if there are, say, 100 people doing stuff about code forces and algorithms, then I think it's pretty bad if each of us makes videos on all the topics we can think of. So I very much appreciate here some more detailed video. Like it's longer, 30 minutes. You can talk about prefix sums also in 10 minutes. But it's good if somebody spends days on animation and thinking about good examples, really making a good video, because each channel producing, say, 5 videos a year of very high quality in total can already cover the whole space of algorithms in few years. Versus if every person just makes some daily videos, that's just bad, because you will have so much content but nothing will be of very high quality. I have premium for YouTube? Yes, I do.
Как раз его мы и прибавим. И как в одномерном случае все XOR X. Итак, то есть трехмер. Ставим префиксный сск b плюс первое, их сложили, все, что нам нужно. Первое минус b. Отступ только.
This is what, three-dimensional sums? Yeah. Three-dimensional sums still, I think, can be explained with a drawing. Or maybe it would become too bad. I'm not sure. I would try to explain it with a drawing.
Если бы у которых всем снять операции члена арифметически прибавить число сумму, сказать спасибо алгоритму.
And what else do we have? Disjoint sparse table. I don't know what algorithm he's talking about. Split into two arrays is just.
В этом видео мы поговорим про disjoint sparse table. Для того, чтобы понять это видео, вам нужно пусть нам дан некоторые. Это не такая соответственно, просто мы минусом у нас может не это. Пускай нам разобьет наш отрезок на 2 подотрезка длины 8. Они будут пересекаться по 4 элементам и удобно. Давайте отрезок, что мы заметим. Теперь представим, что к нам пришел.
How not to teach dynamic programming, but I don't think we're here to bully anybody. I can take a look later. But people outside of CP, I don't think they can teach dynamic programming very well, because they are rarely strong at DP, and they focus on, let's say there is longest common subsequence problem, LCS, or LIS, longest increasing sequence. They often work with these huge two-dimensional arrays, as if it helped you at all to simulate the algorithm so for such a long time. If most of this video is just filling the array, that's bad. You don't want that. Because solving a problem isn't about taking a code that you have and really running it yourself for the medium-sized example. If there is nothing more,
to fill those gaps.
Is there actually anything more here? This explain?
So what is 0-1 knapsack problem? Use is maximum, but some of the weight, or you don't pick the item. All you have to do is sort the item by their value to weight.
Do you need to sort the values?
Non-increasing order, and then sort the item by value to weight in a non-increasing order.
Is he describing greedy?
And then keep picking the items, and then if the last item cannot be picked totally, split it up and pick whatever ratio you can. So, but here we are doing 0 knapsack problem, which means that he cannot split the item. So how do we do it? Yes, we will use dynamic programming to solve this question. In the next section, let's see how. So how do we solve this problem? So the question is very simple. Whenever a new item comes in, you have to decide if to pick this item or not, and you have to find which gives you the maximum value. If you pick the item, the maximum value will be the value of the item plus whatever we can get by subtracting this value, this value from the total weight and excluding this item. Or the best you can do without including this item, my total number of columns is same as the total weight plus 1. Means that if the total weight is 0, no matter what items I have.
An example of a bad video. The first, okay, so the first minute and a half is some introduction of what a knapsack is and what's the real value version, without really explaining why it works. Then for half a minute he says something about knapsack, and then for 10 minutes he shows it on an example.
And the total value here is 9.
Where going through this example will help nobody understand.
Which is I minus 1 equal to j. Then
this is important, of course, understanding the code.
Without including this item about the
roasting other YouTubers. Dynamic programming is a hard topic. The video sound is too loud. Oh, sorry. Is it also
какой-то запрос. Найдем соответствие.
Maybe that one was louder. Okay, so I still didn't get what we are doing here.
Нас находится.
But listening to Russian isn't really very convenient. There is a button here, open transcript. Did you know that? You can go through a 15-minute video just in like 5 minutes. Actually, I recommend this. I don't recommend it here because like, most of what's happening is just visuals. So you need to just watch the video, maybe in higher speed. But if the video is where you see somebody's face and they just talk, just open this transcript on the right and read this. It will be faster and more beneficial for you. I don't know Russian. I know very little Russian, actually. What happened to CodeChef Roast series? So the CodeChef collaboration series was supposed to show CodeChef what to improve, and I'm not sure they took any of the advice I first gave them, because I sent them some feedback, like how the main page should look like, and I will write to them. But also, on the other hand, I was supposed to start the IOI training series, and I didn't do that yet, and that's my fault. I postponed it too much, and I had other stuff to do. Yeah, I'm not sure if the title should be, if title is in English, okay, if the video is in Russian but with English captions, I'm not sure if it's okay to put the title in English, maybe. Okay, so can somebody tell me what are we doing here? Just in very short. Combine segment trees and sparse tables. Maybe we will do something for every node of a segment tree. I can know stuff for every prefix and every suffix. Maybe like that. So it's more like, I would say, offline divide and conquer. I'm just reading through the transcript. Find the minimum on a segment and how many times it occurs on this segment. Yeah, if we do something for every prefix and suffix of every node, we're good. There are YouTube channels posting CodeChef long problems and they fail to acknowledge the problem. Well, what do you expect them to do? To say on their forum that they are sad about the videos? I'm sure they are trying to do something about it, but it seems to be a very big problem. I don't think you can, in any way sue people on YouTube just because they show a solution to an ongoing contest. It's not a law.
Hello friends.
Can you check this channel? This thing? I don't know. I have more stuff in watch later, so no. Still, just tell me what this is.
Те операции из самого тогда у нас не будет перекрытий и идемпотент, чтобы это нам не понадобится. А дальше это все, что мы будем хранить. Нам пришел какой-то запрос. Найдем соответствующие ему листья, будет находиться в левом брате, и там посчитан минимум достижений, что мы еще завершим. Нужно образки, соответствующие от алгоритма.
Actually, Ctrl-F prefix. Yeah, prefix and suffix minimum. Okay, I guessed it correctly. Revamp the format, make it unrated. That's some solution, but then so many fewer participants will participate. It will not be anymore a big contest where thousands of people take part. Yeah, solving challenges is fine, sure. I just don't like the hardest problems there. William Fissett has the best graph videos.
Fast look at.
I want something like a particular algorithm. Something non-trivial. Strongly connected components. Where am I? Strongly connected components.
Strongly connected components and how we can find them using Tarjan's
I will make it a bit louder.
So what are SCCs or strongly connected components? I like to think of them as self-contained cycles within a directed graph, where for every vertex in a given cycle, you can reach every other vertex in the same.
That's too much text for sure. You don't put that much text on a screen. Nobody will read it.
For example, in the graph below, there are just going to need to understand the concept of a low-link value. Simply put, the low-link value of a particular node is the smallest node ID reachable from that node, including the ID of the node itself. For this to make sense, I'm going to label each of the nodes in our graph by doing a DFS. Suppose we start at sign ID.
The animation is pretty cool.
Alright, now that we're done labeling the low-link value of node 1 and trying to determine the low-link
Maybe
value.
I should just from time to time outsource the animation part. If I think that in a video, let's say about graphs and DFS, I need an animation, I will just pay somebody to make this half-a-minute animation.
Node. Again, the low-link ID reachable 2. A little too easy, right? Well, you're not wrong, there is a catch. The flaw with this technique is that it is highly dependent on the traversal order of the DFS, which is effectively node 1 connected component explored during the DFS. So we might not end up with the correct arrangement of node IDs for our Low-Link values to tell us which nodes are. How this stack works
Again,
is that
too much text.
Columns start the depth first search somewhere and don't stop. Blue, the depth first search has explored all of its neighbors as gray. Note that if a node is orange or gray, then it is on the there. As we explore tracking, since we visited all the neighbors of node Z.
Learning advanced graph concepts to get a job as a web developer. Yeah, that doesn't really make sense. Maybe I should rename my stream to Learning Advanced Graph Concepts to get a job as a web developer.
0 and its ID is equal to its Low-Link value. This means we need to remove just to check with its. You will also notice that node 3's ID is equal to its finished visit and G, an adjacency list of directed edges. Found. After I define a few arrays which
this is cool.
To represent class scope. I define
highlighting part of the code to then talk about it.
It is a constant to represent unvisited nodes. Then comes n, the number of nodes in the graph, and g, an adjacency list of.
I, just put something in a circle. This is nice. But without proper tools, it will take me a lot of time. How can I make this? In anything with drawing, I can just mark it as a rectangle, but then when recording a video, I would need to pause every few seconds, put a new rectangle and start a new sentence. And it really destroys the flow of an explanation. The alternative is, of course, to prepare slides in advance to make, to put this in a rectangle, then second part, third part. But then you need some tools to make that. If I just do it in OneNote, then I see that actually I want to improve the code a little bit. I would need to redo all the slides. This needs to be done with LaTeX or any automated tool like that.
At minimum support, push, whether or not yet been. So this is the inside.
If you have suggestions how I can achieve it, please tell me. PowerPoint is enough, but again, when I present something, I talk about it, sometimes I realize that actually I want to make this small change. Sometimes I just realize a mistake, and sometimes I think, oh, this will be just better. Or I want to modify the comment that I'm putting in the code. I don't want to then spend a few minutes modifying stuff. If it's, some image, the screenshot of a code, and then on the top of that rectangles, it will be very complicated to fix the slides. Like his videos, but I think he spends too long time demoing the algorithm and doesn't spend a lot of time proving its correctness. That's a huge thing in YouTube. Like, do you want to make your video longer, but also talk about the proof of correctness? I struggle with that all the time. What videos did I make recently? Of course, the easier the video is, the shorter it will be and easier it is to prove anything. Like here, for LCA and binary lifting, neither is a big deal. But I'm sure that I did something more complicated earlier. This video was hard to make because you can as well talk like hour or 2 hours about different examples and why it works, why really we do this, to understand it rather than to use it like a black box.
Method. The input argument to the depth first search method.
Should I LeetCode or do competitive programming? LeetCode if you want, if you care just about interviews. I think done YouTube. If you ask now the same question for the 5th time, please stop.
Is a variable called @, which I use to denote the ID of the node.
And come on, don't use phrase to give a contest. It's to take part in a contest. You don't give a contest. If anything, the author gives a contest.
Currently at. On the first 3 lines, I do some housekeeping stuff, which is add the current node to the stack, mark the current node as being on the stack. All the next line thing to notice is values to.
It really happens so much for me that when describing something, I realize that just I want to change a single character. It's so, not nice. Sometimes even, I will show you an example. Do I have something here? Oh, I have a video on sparse tables. It's already recorded, by the way. I just need to edit it. I'm looking. Okay, this was a video about binary lifting, and I wanted to talk about some tree a little bit. Then 2 slides later I wanted to again talk about it. Then I will draw it once and then copy it, put it here. Then as I'm looking more at it, or just already recording, I start realizing that actually I need, let's say, 1 more child of the root, or I realize that actually I need depth to be longer by 1, or some stuff is unnecessary and I want to remove it. And then if I already prepared slides like those, like already with some text here, then it's just ugly to replace it, including the fact that if I copy this, mark this, copy it, and put it here, it will be, shifted a little bit because I will not be able to put it exactly in the same position. And that's just annoying. Again, if you have any suggestions about this, you see a better process that I can follow, do tell me. Timus Online Judge, I don't have any opinion. I didn't use it much. You want to prove your algorithm during an interview? Prove the complexity? Well, not really prove, but you need to understand the complexity and be able to explain it. Same with algorithm. Proof is really a scary word. From time, like when you have a greedy algorithm, then it's not obvious why it works. You need to say something more about it. But when you say you run DFS in order to see the connected component, then you will rarely get a question, why does it work? Like, prove it. Prove DFS. Well, DFS visits everything. It's quite easy.
Have the same ID. So here I just assign each node to have the same ID as the ID. If the link should be in the description. And folks, thanks for watching. Drop a...
I want the rectangles. So I want this. If you don't tell me how to do it, I will just keep circling the proper part with a pen. If it's in Genie, then I don't really, mark it like this when talking about it. Let's say I wanted to talk about this description. I would say, okay, this is the first paragraph. Sphere Online Judge underrated? I don't think so. Many people use it. It's not underrated. You can draw rectangles in OneNote. I can, but I will not stop to draw a nice rectangle. Like, he prepared them in advance. It's not that... No, I don't want to pause a video in order to put a nice rectangle like this.
First array is IDs, which stores the ID of each node. Then is whether or not a node has been
like
this ID of each inside the
how is it called? The transition from one rectangle to the other one. It's here
inside the
smooth because he prepared the slides in advance. You can do it in Premiere Pro. What do I use? I have Premiere Elements. How expensive is Premiere Pro? Yeah, I want to buy it. You pay per month? Is that the only option? You pay €37 per month. Here 25 for just Premiere Pro. It's not that big of a deal. I can afford it, but it's sad in total to, you know, pay in long run €1,000 for a program. Davinci Resolve. Pay €0 per month on torrent. No, I don't like that approach. If you can afford something, you should pay the authors. But of course, with price, they decide how many users they want. If this was cheaper, then I would be more likely to buy it. That's obvious, but you know, if you're not in bad financial situation, I think you shouldn't use torrents. So when you have an alternative, just pay if you can. Support the authors. Davinci, and what Davinci will allow me to easily put a rectangle like that. But is it enough for me? I really draw and explain stuff as I go, as I record. And in post-productions, when editing, I only correct mistakes. I don't really do a lot of extra stuff. My videos are mainly what I would do, let's say, in a classroom, plus some pre-prepared slides. I still prepare slides, they are just not full and ready. I still draw over them. But if I want to talk about some kind of tree, I prepare a tree in advance and then show with arrows what is happening. Yeah, I want rectangles. This is better than what I do. Oh, the today comment is really messed up. I'm not really doing Gauss. Today. Okay, I changed that today comment. Fine, let's move on. What do you want next from this list? We already did the black box, and we did the peltorator stuff. Editor IDE plugin where you can select a portion and it draws. I guess. No, I can draw on the top of my screen. I don't know what I'm looking at right now. When I look at some code, I can still open Epic Pen in order to draw on the top of my screen, and I can do this. With a drawing tablet, it's a bit nicer what I'm doing here, but to be honest, is that really more useful than highlighting it like that? I either want to keep highlighting like a very simple person that I am, or I want rectangles. Yeah, I can draw in circles, I can do this part, or I can sometimes, you know, sometimes I just put a dot here, but this is more often inside OneNote when I draw, because sometimes I have a picture of some part of code. I wonder what is this code. L, I guess, from Petrozavodsk. Mental stamina and focus time for contest. Look, I don't know, but for sure stamina or focus for exams. I'm sure that if you read about this, you will find something. I'm not an expert, I'm not a psychologist. Strassen's matrix multiplication? No. Don't worry about it. It's not faster than the brute force method. What video? Ben Awad's video in the playlist. Where is it? This one? I don't know. Apparently I saw it. It seemed related to algorithms and I wanted to watch it. I watched a few videos by Ben. Like when he talked about coding interviews, for example. I watched this video for sure. The problem with live streaming code. This is, no, when somebody produces a video that is the Twitch stream frozen? Everything alright with the stream? For me it's frozen right now. Even if it's a meme video, you know, it doesn't change that much. Tinder for VS Code, I think I watched some of that too. Okay, stream unfroze for me. If I recall correctly, problem with live streaming code and some few similar videos. Really, like, I agree with that. And there are various bad things about live streaming code. Especially when you do a big project. When you want to stay productive and stay entertaining in some way, or you want to make things educational, it's easier for me. It's easier for me because I deal with small, simple problems. Maybe not simple, but if you join a stream after 20 minutes, I kind of restart because I do a new problem. Is that a meme video?
Do the serious thing in software.
Focus for hours as you do now in streams? I think so.
Engineering
I already did math competitions.
is not inverting a binary tree, it is AngularJS. And in today's video, we're going to be rectifying this blasphemy. 1 minute and 16 seconds, and half the time, as you saw, I was kind of just dirtling. Function cup can only sprout at most 2 tentacles, and like flip it, so single roles. And I also like to even apply to them as well. Now, MR under fret mode, and you all play, bam,
Okay, so
tree.
this video doesn't really
This
have
will not get
anything
you
to
in
do
the browser.
with
And this is recursion problems.
inverting a
And you
binary
invert it.
Okay,
1, 2,
I thought
3,
it's
4.
something on algorithms. Never mind then. Okay, what next? Not a lot of stuff to choose from. If I go full screen, maybe even we will fit on one page. Yes, we can fit on one page. What do we watch next, guys? Animations in this video. I watched 3 Blue 1 Brown. I agree that his animations are amazing.
There are many.
But I don't need those. We don't need anything like that in competitive programming. It looks nice. Yeah, it's needed in geometry, especially 3-dimensional geometry like this. Or there was recently a video about understanding E, or maybe understanding E to some power. I'm not sure what that was. This one I didn't watch yet. It was E to powers. I think that. Also, this is an Olympiad problem that appeared in Code Forces as well. Okay, so here, this is something where you really need visualizations. In 99% of competitive programming videos, you don't need that. When you just give me a name of somebody and I don't recall the name, I'm always scared to open it. Okay, indeed, he's a programming channel. Not a lot of algorithms though. I think he teaches programming, he doesn't teach algorithms.
Wise operators are all. The thing I want to mention is that these highly, that is possible, but I would think hard about that. For me, on and off, we can't really directly, if of course you're dealing, if we just amend each one of these, I'm talking about our number just gone. Situation and got bolt.
I don't think I want to watch the whole of it. E to 0 of power is 1? What? Why do you want proof of e to 0 of power is 1? $1,300 notifications? Where? I had that? I only see 9+ in the corner. Watch some Ericto. That's also some idea. This is a good channel. Again, I'm scared to open it. Okay. It has some visualizations. Dynamic programming. That's a lot of use. Why didn't I hear about the channel?
Dynamic programming is one of the most powerful algorithmic techniques in computer science. The basic problem, not surprised how they work, the examples in this video. You want to find the length sequence. The longest increasing subsequence is 1, followed by 2.
I don't agree that you should think about subproblems
followed by
in
5.
DP. You should think about making a step or deciding about an
followed
element.
by connections and under a particular find of all of the long counting nodes and the end and the positions in the subsequence are going to be 1 through index k. We start at k. The problem will be fairly strength over the so index 0 can. Another assumption in the problem, another visualize partial. Second to make so far cells. With this final piece in place, we are now length or finally involves box to the tallest boxes. This is just
that I wouldn't bother drawing all those various how are they called, parallelograms? No, the boxes in space. I would not. But when you deal with some kind of language for visualization, it's much easier, because you will do something once and then you can just kind of for free get 50 of them.
Other examples, but the most.
Is it the same library of visualization? Watch my own YouTube stream. I should take my streams from more than a year ago and comment on what I'm doing wrong. Brilliant.org. I think it's fine for math and probability, but it's not good for programming. Chinese remainder theorem. There is an article on Brilliant. Same for binary lifting. Those topics I covered recently on YouTube, or I will. Yeah, I did. Both of them I did. Theorem, not theorem. I wanted to say... How was it called? I forgot. Brilliant. Maybe it was another website. Sparse tables? Okay. So recently I used those two articles, Chinese remainder theorem and sparse table, and I didn't like them. They here describe something, but this visualization, this simulation is not really helpful at all. They don't require why and what. They provide a code, but the code uses binary logarithm using real values and the floor. The floor is unnecessary anyway. If you use this, automatically it's rounded down. Yeah, it's not a good article on sparse tables. So I have a feeling that for some obscure topics like sparse tables, but apparently also CRT, almost anybody maybe can contribute, and then it creates a bad article. I think this one wasn't that bad, but still everybody in the internet, they just use some strange method with inverses, because they think that people can compute inverses fast. This is a perfect example of even teachers just applying the same method that they learned instead of thinking. Algorithms live. Yeah, but he digs really deep into some hard problem. Algorithms live is like algo talk on steroids. You know, we have those 2 or 4 videos that I made with second thread. So that's one thing. And it was, well, this one was 27 minutes long. But if you go and find Algorithms live, he makes just 2-hour long videos, and then he can really cover something extremely difficult. Sometimes it's just an educational videos on some topic, like bitmask dynamic programming, I guess that's a lecture. But sometimes they talk about an extremely hard problem. And you know, a very hard problem, you can spend more than an hour. .36 is good. Tall caves with Endagorian. I believe you. What spam do we have? Yeah, like don't put comments in the chat like please tell. You're just, you know, making it harder for anybody to go through the chat. How they edit such long videos? Are they really edited? I think something like this, where you just talk with somebody for almost 2 hours, you don't edit it. Maybe the beginning and the end. Believe me that after recording something like this, you don't really even want to watch all of it. Because it's unpleasant. It's just unpleasant to hear yourself. And what do you want to achieve? Like, you maybe will bring it down from hour and 45 minutes down to like hour and 40 minutes. Not worth it. No, I don't know what is Duke's channel. When the startup coming? Not this month. Do you want something from this list or not? Your chat, you give me too many links to new channels to check out. I just had this list. What I actually should do is I should have said at the very beginning that only once I'm done with all of this, then I can accept new suggestions. No, I will not now talk about some random problem on probability. Green one, this, I can by calling. How problem setters manage to set non-overlapping original problems. I mean, they just come up with new problems. Sometimes there are collisions. Not from the list. I want to do the list. The one from TEDx. Interview questions from scratch. Okay, the first thing that will be repeated, I will do it. Actually, I'm not consistent with my strategy for this stream. I wanted to have a lazy stream where I don't talk a lot because my throat hurts. And instead, I keep answering questions. Okay, this is too long, so no way. Nobody mentions those. So either the one by Rajit or by Colin or the last one. So TEDx, Colin or Rajit. Share the link. You can Google the name. Okay, Colin or Rajit. Which one I want to do more? Okay, let's do this one. Is this an advertisement of something? Oh, it seems that it's not an advertisement. That's nice. I will use the link. Why escape doesn't exit from F11?
If you can hear me. So, hi guys, I'm sorry I was not active. Start along this whole journey. So, I got to know about this LeetCode website quite recently, and I was amazed to see the content of this website. You feel you are weak at, and then you can start solving problems about on that particular topic. For example, today I will be going over arrays, and so you can see there are so many questions on the topic arrays, and they have difficulty level as well mentioned. So I will just sort the problems on difficulty. And when preparing for coding interviews, what I try to do is solve 3 to 4 hard problems, 3 to 4 medium, and 3 to 4 easy. If you're resuming from maybe a month or something like that, I would say just get in touch with.
I don't agree that you should, when you're on level of solving hard problems, you shouldn't bother with easy problems. Just, you know, solve problems on your level or highly, a bit above it. If you're a beginner, solve easy problems, sometimes try to tackle a medium one. If you're strong, mainly do hard problems.
Programming again, solve some easy problems so that you are familiar with writing code correctly and handling corner cases and jump game 2. And let me know if, an array of non-negative integers, and then you are initially at the first index of the array. And each element in the array readable, that is 2. If you are at index 1, the max jump that you can make is 3. If you are at index 2, the max jump that you can make is 1, and so on. So over here, in this case, the goal is to reach the last index, and we have to make the minimum number of jumps. So the optimal answer over here is to take a jump of length 1 and reach to index 1, and then take a jump of length 3 so that you reach the last index. So in 2 jumps, we were able to reach the last index. And the goal of the problem is to find that minimum number of jumps. So I will just quickly go to here to here. So this is not that difficult if you look, and this has 50. And this is not that difficult if you look. And what we are going to do to solve all right. So how can we solve this? So we have a lot of choices. How many choices? Exactly. F of I, a good solution.
If you make videos, like, don't type a long sentence like this one. I also do it from time to time, but that's a bad idea. It's hard to read. It doesn't help over just, you know, saying it out loud.
And we can clearly find F of I
on the screen the better.
by just iterating to reason. When you're the next step is to just, now what do we have to do is turn from n minus 2.
Okay.
You are at I, jump
Most
from the point.
of this video is
understanding
just
everything.
solving one problem.
Right? Expect to a negative number. So that you have to prompt indice the bottlenecks in log and time. Find out the interviewer AJ, and maybe
as he goes, he just explains some general
trying to
techniques.
make the second jump.
Like, if you read Cracking the Coding Interview, there are some techniques explained there, like find the bottleneck. Like, all that stuff is obvious if you are experienced, but still it's maybe good to list them down to know that if you're stuck, you should either go for an example. But I think that just too many times people repeat what they see in other books or something. Like, everywhere you will see now that you should use like bottlenecks. What else is there? Start with the brute force, speed this up. I don't know. Like, people don't try to come up with their own advice. Like, I always say that when you're stuck, we also should just think how you as a human would solve an example. Look at a small array of size 4, maybe something bigger of size 10. Think how you would find, say, maximum difference between two values. Will you really compare every two elements? Like, no, you will just find something smallest and biggest. This is, of course, an easy problem, so it's like almost any advice you can use on an easy problem, it will work and it will seem easy.
Right? Now, so this is that, or this index here, and now you have j plus limit, and this here, once we see be max of simply then return. All right, I am a max index possible I values.
Okay, I'm sure that the stream was fine because this was the stream, but I hate the title. Like, this is just solving one problem live. not a general advice on how to approach problems. Hardest to learn, comprehend? For sure, something that I don't know. Stop asking me what you should use when preparing for interviews. You can use Google. And also read this. No, when you prepare for interviews, do some platforms about interviews. When you do competitive programming and you want to get good at competitive programming, practice on competitive programming platforms. Okay. So this wasn't really a general advice. And maybe it's time to wrap this up. As always, I just turned this into a Q&A session. Next time I will just turn off the chat and do my stuff. I wanted to go through most of it, of course, times 2 speed and skipping a lot. And I did a small fraction of that. If you have suggestions for my content, put them in YouTube comments or in Discord, not in stream chat. Just remove that 4-minute video. What, this one? Oh, I guess that I wanted to just see if this is some kind of course. Okay, I think it's enough for me today. If you want something from this list, just go to YouTube and search for the proper title. You will obviously find it. In description of the YouTube recording of this live stream, you will see this, the links that we went through today mainly. Yeah, I'm not going to switch to 3 blue 1 brown style of videos. I don't think that's necessary in competitive programming, but the stuff by Peltorator is of course very nice. And it's cool that he spends a lot of time on a single video. I think more people should do it. Right. Consider joining the Discord server. Here's the link. Thank you all for watching and see you again, I think this weekend, maybe Saturday. I will not stream on Thursday. In general, this is the schedule. Right. I like raiding people who do stuff similar to what I did during a stream. And I'm not sure there will be a lot of that. And for sure there are a lot of lazy streamers, just like I was today. But nobody researching algorithms. Sunday's Kickstart round. Let me check. Schedule. 11 p.m. If it's easy, then it's fine. But I guess if I do very well, I need to then record the commentary, and that will be past midnight. I might do it. Do you play something? I don't know what that is, really.